Celestia grabbed the fallen Vulpix by the neck, raising him so that their eyes met. Her grip was much rougher this time, and while Alan struggled much less, his body was still reeling from the hit. Celestia, please. The Sceptile scream merely deepened in response. Good, that's it. There's no need to struggle anymore. It'll be over soon enough. Alan was too tired to fight back, too injured to struggle, too much in fear to even return Celestia's stare. I'm too weak. He leant in as the leafy cloth dug around his neck, further into his flesh. And what? The crossbow on my leafy. He began to drift away, visioning darkening as he choked. A silent whimper, his last cry for help, remained unheard as the Sceptile merely carried on with glee. Get your clammy hands off of him! Morgan slammed into Celestia, his body glowing a hot red in outrage as he pivoted, landing on her arms. He desperately tried to free the Vulpix, smashing his head scale into her clutch with as much force as she could muster. Let go, you piece of shit! Morgan repeated between each head smash. Sheer determination fueled him. Even as the outrage wore off, he continued. Even as the eyes crossed and confusion took hold of him, he carried on. Even as blood seeped and dribbled down his forehead, or as his own words slurred, he tried to reach the impossible dream. He couldn't accept it. His savior, choked to death at the hands of the Pokemon that had ruined his life. Let him go! Let him go! Morgan attempted once more at bashing his head into Celestia's arms, though in his confusion his head scaled and met between her eyes. Celestia dropped the near unconscious Vulpix as she recoiled in play, flinging him off to the side as her rage instead landed upon Morgan, still stumbling out in his panic confusion. Sir, you're right. You're crazy, bitch. Alan despaired. Through his blurry vision, he could see the pink dragon collapse, blabbering nonsense to himself as the confusion stamped at his will to fight. No, I can't end like this. There has to be another way. Alan tried to cry out, yet his entire body fell back. His vision was dimming again. He dipped in and out of consciousness as he watched Morgan slowly pass out as well. I want someone to cross my face. Hey, it can't end like this. The Sceptile approached once more. Her smile had vanished, leaving only an angry yet confused glare. He kicked Morgan's body aside, turning away to play with the dragons moving on the edge. She slowly flicked her around on her feet, giggling silently to herself as she ignored the Vulpix in her mantis. Celestia's so hot. What? Alan mentally stammered. Who was the Crossman? Black crystals enveloped the corner of Alan's vision as an apparition of the Crossman appeared in front, looming over Alan as he eyed the round Vulpix with his pitying eyes. The Crossman, Alan tried calling out, his voice hoarse and too quiet for anyone else to hear. Help me, please, Morgan, he's going to... He could barely make out the crystalline hallucination shaking his head, dismayed at Alan's own incompetence. Disappointing. I expected more after a training year. No, I suppose some assistance would also prove beneficial to me. The Crossman's glass grasped around the tiny extrusion glowing off his chest, breaking off a small chunk of jet black crystal and tossing it towards the land. The crystal glowed as it sailed through the air, landing on the Vulpix as a ball of light, over dissipating across his body. We will discuss how this debt shall be repaid later. Little Alan. Actually, maybe Necros was kind of hot too. Alan's vision was clear as the hallucinatory figure disappeared in a flash. He felt feverish, uncomfortably so. He was near unbearable. Alan writhing about violently as he felt strength return into his muscles. The heat dissipated as rapidly as it came, though the side effects remained. Alan felt reinvigorated. Wounds closed and bruises healed, enough so to stand back up to face down the hot as fuck Septal once more. He glowed in a fulgent yellow, illuminating the darkened cavern with his radiance enough for Celestia to take notice. She snapped around, Dyke placed atop Morgan and pinning him to the ground. Her eyes sparkled, a river of tears streaming down her cheeks. I know what's next. Edward, is it truly you? My age, His Majesty, he has returned. Alan rolled his eyes. He was fed up with this hot-ass fuck Septal mistaking him for the king he allegedly revered. Oh, so much. Again and again. Stop it. Alan said. I am still who I was 20 seconds ago, Celestia. You're just plain fucking delusional. Your sense of humor remains well, I see. Celestia ignored Alan as she laughed to herself. As fuck Septal falling further into insanity. Let us return quickly, Your Highness. We may even make it back in time for dinner if we run. Celestia. Look at me for a moment. Yes, sire. What the hell do you think you're doing? He growled, pointing at Morgan and moving out of the way. Edward, no more! Stay off of Morgan for fuck's sake! I'm going to say this one last time, okay? Edward is dead, Celestia. He hates this kingdom, and he hates you! Land grew brighter, his surroundings cooling rapidly. I'm leaving this stupid place and I'm taking Morgan with me. Ready you like a nut, you crazy bitch! A radiant beam of golden eyes ripped through the air directly towards Celestia. Tore through layers and layers of the Septal's vines as she staggered backward. Only barely able to defend against the first beam of ice. Alan's pupils disappeared into his golden glow as he fired another colder ice beam. Celestia defended with her arms. Her leafy scales shattered under the raw power. Hurrah! He recoiled in shock. Her arms were frozen together. A thick coating of solid ice froze her torso into the guarding stance she had taken and shielding herself against the ice beam. Sit! No way, Alan's still a fraud. A flurry of snow and ice rained upon the battlefield as the already frozen tile lay unable to escape the crushing weight of the pure snow piled atop her. As the field cleared and the snow melted away, the results of her battle became apparent. She cocked her head and glared at the victorious Alan standing in front of her, the crushing weight of the ice keeping her body immobilized. I'm sorry, Celestia, but I can't keep this up anymore. This is for the good of everyone. Pressing the last bits of snow, have Helen stole off his robe for just stay here for a while, please. Edward, let me go. Edward, fight back. I know you're still here. Help me, please. God, stop them, anyone. Alan turned out the sound of her desperate cry, rushing over to Morgan's aid. He rummaged through his robe, procuring the crushed remains of a reviver seen around wearing. And more closely resembled a pile of mush with bits of sea sticking out. But it would get the job done. She shoved half of the mixture into Django's mouth, before lathering the other half over Morgan's head and body. Morgan's eyes flitted open in an instant. He squirmed a little as the numerous wounds on his head and belly rapidly closed. Morgan! Alan exclaimed, squeezing the dragon in a tight hug of relief. Ugh, still sore. Sorry. Alan quickly backed away, allowing Morgan to stand on his own. He smiled, ears fluttering gradually in response. So, the last she's been dealt with. And thanks again, by the way, for saving me. Alan merely gestured at the foot and set towel a prideful grin as he cheerily laughed, cheerily giggled. Morgan let out a sigh of relief on his own, before slowly making his way towards the now unblocked exit. Ah, serves her right. Crazy bitch deserved worse than anything. Let's get out of here, Alan. The pair fled the scene, leaving the wailing tile behind. Alan's glow dissipated shortly after the battle, allowing them to slip quietly into the darkness that now enshrouded the castle. Alan could barely make out anything in the dim light of the new moon, relying only on the slight shine of the Everstone implanted into Morgan's tail as he led the way. Occasionally swerved down the pathway, hiding in between some bushes as the bright torchlight from the multitude of guards searching for them crossed their path. In the distance, Alan spotted a huge congregation of guards. They camped atop the bridge, the only bridge crossing the line moat that isolated the castle from the rest of the world. Defensive ramparts, lookout towers, and over 20 guards. Morgan whispered as he watched the group form on the top of a hill. He shook his head in annoyance. We're not getting through that. Ever. So, what then? I don't think there's another way out, Alan replied. We can swim across, but I don't know if I can swim that far. Morgan rubbed his head scale, contemplating. Well, I sure can, so that's off the table. Let's get a bit closer, though. I don't want to have that crazy and hot as fuck little sneak up and ambush us from the trees. Let's head down there then, Alan said, and pointing towards a small ledge jutting off the edge of the cliff. A tiny rocky ledge connected it to the base of the bridge, hidden away from the torchlight of the guards stationed directly above. The door skidded towards the ledge, making sure to stay just out of range of the illuminating torchlight. Alan was afraid the guards would notice as they approached, with him now out in the opening, with no bushes to dive in for safety. But the guards seemed tired and distracted. The stress and overwork the hot as fuck Celeste selected them, likely being the cause. They didn't seem to stir from their near trance-like state, even as the Vulpix and Jiangmo appeared within their sight. This is all wrong! He kept glancing back on the guards milling out above him as they worked towards the base of the bridge. They don't even want to do this! I hate this! I hate it all so much! With some effort, the pair managed to scramble upon the stone base of the bridge. As they rested, Morgan tugged onto the Vulpix's tail, grabbing his attention. I figured it out, Jiangmo said, grinning slightly. We can still cross the bridge, just beneath it instead. The catwalk's usually inaccessible, so they never cared to fortify it as well. But what then? We don't have anywhere to go, right? Alan stressed, raising his voice slightly as though being mindful of the people above. I don't even know what's out there. Alan put his paws up, watching as they trembled in his anxiety. Sorry, I know I shouldn't be acting like this, but I'm scared. Nothing makes sense. I don't know what to... Morgan interrupted. Alpix, pulling Alan into a tight hole with one paw while patting his back with the other. They stayed in each other's embrace for just a moment, the dragon breaking off as soon as Alan's breathing slowed. better. Yeah, sorry. Alan apologized, wiping his eyes. He's so good at copying me down. I hate that I'm acting like this in front of him, though. Good to hear, kiddo. Morgan smiled. I know a place in the city we can hide at tonight. We'll figure out the rest there, okay? Morgan petted Alan one last time for good measure and climbed onto the arched catwalk above. Alan scrambled to follow, feeling the slight shimmer of the moon that moaned below to help him navigate the otherwise pitch-black shadow casted by the bridge above them. Alan's entire body trembled slightly as they moved them further up the narrow catwalk. That's weird. I don't remember being scared of heights. He steeled his nerves, focusing his vision away from the steep heights around him instead Morgan's pigtail swishing about nonchalantly as they crossed. Suddenly, the jungle froze. He tensed his body, scales raising as he lowered himself, so Alan could see what was in front. A curlew, staring despondently at the flickering lights of the city that surrounded the moat, blocked the narrow pathway. She seemed unaware of Alan and Morgan's presence, kicking her hanging legs around mindlessly. Shit! Morgan mumbled under his breath, barely loud enough for only Alan to hear. It's too dark. I didn't notice before you started crossing. What do we do? The bridge is only wide enough for one Pokemon at most. No way we're getting around her. Morgan replied, frustration growing in his hushed tone. I don't want to fight her though. I don't want anyone else to get hurt tonight. Both them and us. Me neither, kiddo. Morgan said, with a troubled and contemplating look in his eyes. This was troubling. He remembered the curlew. Though she didn't do anything to him. Physically, she was still present in both of the rituals, meaning she must be somewhat close with Celestia and the rest of the royal cabinet. It's best if we could get her to leave somehow. Besides, if she spotted us, she was still hey, you! That didn't matter now. They were spotted! Your Highness, you can't... Alan instinctively lowered himself, ready to pounce. His mouth glowed a light blue as an ice shard grew in his mouth. Morgan held him back, signaling him to react. Don't worry, Kel. I got this. He turned back and stared at the curlew. Her eyes glowed a deep purple as a tiny misshapen shadow ball formed in his hands. She remained in her stance, too much in fear to attack, yet unwilling to back away. Look, Missy. Morgan spoke with a neutral tone, stealing away his contempt he felt for the royals. Let's be real here. No one wants to fight. The general sat down, putting his paws above his head. So how about we don't? You let us go, and we won't say a thing about you if we get captured later on. Win-win, right? No! The curlew shook her head profusely, firing the shadow ball in her palms at Morgan. The attack bounced off Morgan harmlessly, earning her a quick sticker from the jacket. Celeste, she would... How would she know? Alan interrupted, peeking his head out from behind Morgan. She's frozen under a mountain of ice right now. Blabbering nonsense to no one listening. Your Majesty, Lorenzo wouldn't care. Melissa is still up crying her eyes out somewhere. Alan listed off as many members of the royal cabinet as he could remember. Sharon's still half dead in the infirmary. And your buddy Astor probably went off hiding already. You can make up anything, and you'll fit right in. So please, just let us be. You and I don't say a thing, and no one will know. Curlew stood in silence for a moment, contemplating. Promise. Promise. She nodded her head, vanishing in a bright flash of purple as she teleported away, clearing the way for the two escapees to cross. Both Pokemon breathed a deep sigh of relief as they wordlessly continued on their path, quietly disappearing into the glistening lights of the city of Crocs. You know, why is her name just like Curlia? Did that ever explain later on? Even after escaping, the pair kept their pace quick, only occasionally stopping to allow the much younger lad to rest. Morgan led them through the city, slipping between alleyways and crisscrossing between the constructed townhouses and villas. The surrounding buildings changed quickly as Morgan led the pair through narrower and narrower streets. The opulent marble villas soon became brick and stone buildings, while the heavily decorated street lamps were replaced by building-side torchlight. Morgan's pace gradually quickened as he became more familiar with his surroundings. The rigid stone building soon gave way to an expansive slum. Tiny, densely packed settlements of rusty sheet metal and thick cloth. Colors faded by time and weather, lined both sides of the narrow alleyways that snaked around the almost that were on them. No light pierced into the grimy, pothole-ridden streets, forcing the Jangmo into navigating the chaotic web of pathways of only his memory and intuition. Slow down! I squeezed between his fatigue panting. Hang on a bit, kiddo. Morgan replied with an excited pat to his dad. We're nearly there. Before long, the pair arrived at what Alan could only describe as a ruin. The metal roofing was almost entirely rusted off, while the walls had collapsed in on itself, leaving sharp bits of stone and metal scattered over the dusty ground. Morgan, are you sure this is the right place? Alan asked, looking around warily. The gentleman noticed Ellen's questioning, jumping into the middle of a pile of rubble to the side, flipping over metal as he dug around. Before too long, Morgan popped his head back out, pointing towards the nearly exposed hole in the rubble. You didn't think I'd make you sleep out here, didn't you? The building on top is just a front, a disguise almost. He explained as he descended into a hole, signaling the Vulpix to follow. It's just how my family and I kept ourselves safe from the thieves and whatever else. Morgan's tail drooped slightly upon the mention of his family. He sighed, the rest of his body disappearing into the pitch-black dwelling underneath. Even with his tiny stature, the hole was still relatively tight fit for the fox. A piece of sheet metal snagged the end of his robe as he entered, turning into a makeshift door as it slammed shut behind him, blotting out the rest of the already dim moonlight from illuminating the room. Alan panicked, scrambling around and tripping over what he assumed to be Morgan's body. Ah, right. I forgot you can't see in the dark. Morgan sighed. He rummaged through something in the darkness before handing it to the Vulpix. Alan tapped the small object with his paws, attempting to identify it exclusively by feel. Morgan turned around, carefully placing his tail on Alan's paws. It's a match, and that's my tail. You know how to use a match, right? Yeah, I do. Alan replied, fumbling around in the darkness as he carefully handled the match. Just strike the stone on my tail. It's pretty good for that. It took a few attempts coupled with a few silent curses from the Vulpix, but eventually he was able to light the match. Alan still couldn't see much, barely enough room to pass the match on to Morgan. He took care of the rest, throwing the tiny flame into a wood-filled crevice behind him. The makeshift fireplace illuminated the room, and Alan was able to relax and his vision returned. The hideout was crude at best, devoid of any furniture save for a massive straw bed in the middle and a half-shattered mirror to his left. The rough earthen walls and crossed perfectly, the ceiling were all covered in a layer of dust. The settlement seemingly left untouched for a decently long time. Morgan, however, didn't seem to mind one bit as he threw himself onto the bed, curling up as his tears filled in inhalation. Sorry, it's a bit dirty, but I should get the job done for the night. He patted the straw beside him, a plume of dust swirling around with each movement. There's only one bed. We used to pile up and sleep atop each other to keep ourselves warm in the winter. My family, I mean. You don't mind sleeping on the same bed as me, right? I broke out of his frozen stupor. No, not at all. I hope I'm not taking up too much space. Nah, you're good. Night. Morgan's words slurred. Eyelids drooping as he let out another yawn. By the time Alan turned to face the dragon, he had already drifted off to sleep, leaving the Vulpix alone with his thoughts once more. He's cold already, Alan thought. Maybe Necrozma knew I would need to escape. Maybe he knew maybe he planned everything from the start. Hey Necrozma, I know you're listening. We've escaped. That's what you wanted from me, right? I'll get my memories back like you promised, right? The response, well, worth a shot. He stared at the half-shattered mirror, his reflection buried from the accumulated dust. His fur was coated in a thin layer of dirt and grime, browning his fur considerably. A few sticks and clumps of mud stuck out of his fluff like a sore thumb. Alan grunted in annoyance as he worked to pull out as much as he could. Somewhere during his escape he had lost his crown, though he had no intention of returning to the castle to find it any time soon. A wave of fatigue flowed over Alan, his head fully onto the soft straw below. He ignored the grime in his fur as he sifted around and turned to face a fast asleep Morgan, drooling a puddle beneath as he rested. Good night, Morgan. And thank you for everything. The Crossmas presence flooded Alan's mind before his mind could even adjust to his surroundings. The Vulpix tensed as he felt his own body materialize on his illusionary mental throne. Before he could settle down, he felt a tug. His body grasped by psychic energy and he was lifted off the ground, floating towards the crystalline dragon seated on the similarly shaped throne across the table. Intriguing. What are you doing? Alan cried out, struggling in the air as the Crossman inspected him thoroughly. My powers, they are slowly returning. The Crossman seemed relieved almost. He flew the Vulpix closer so that they met at eye level. My strength grows and my influence spread. It seems your display of my power left a deep impression on those who witnessed it. The dragon's multicolored eyes brightened. The purple glow of his psychic powers trapping the land dissipated as he released his control over him, dropping him onto an outstretched claw. I am now able to partially manipulate your mental realm. Acrosma said, a claw materializing in his other claw. It seemed much more solid than other objects summoned in the past, lacking the illusionary glimmer that coated everything else in the fog-filled expanse. The event seemed much stabler himself, his illusory power no longer glitching in and out of existence every few moments. In our past encounters, only your perception of this realm could affect your surroundings. Now, however, I hold the ability to control parts of it myself. Haven't you been doing that this whole time? Question. The throne, the table, all those statues. Wasn't that you? Your illusions, yes. It was relatively simple trick, your mind into believing it was real, truth be told. He lowered the lamp back onto his throne, placing the newly formed crown atop his head. Alan had entirely forgotten he lost his own in the first place. Do not fret, my dear Alan. There is no point in me imputing my newfound strength. However, this revelation displays my lack of knowledge of this realm. He paused, digging his claws into the flock to his side. Even after all this time in banishment, he rummaged around in the mist. Eventually, he pulled away from the fog, revealing a single dull rock in his grasp. Banishment? He knew it was a tricky ordeal, continued peppering Crossman with questions, though this time it felt like he was owed at least some of the basic details. Cause and effect, action and reaction, mistake and punishment. I was once a part of both realms, the physical and the mental. Now I am part of none aside from yours. Alan's ears nervously twitched as he eyed the crossman. He opened his mouth, yet said nothing as he struggled to find a suitable reply. My influence wiped away, my powers stripped. It was an extreme punishment, yet still a just one. You will find out more in due time. That is an inevitability. For now, however, the terms of our agreement remain the same. Assist me in my escape, and you shall be rewarded grandly. The crossbow tossed the gun pebble in his hands, the stone landing in front of Alan. The vulpix poked at it curiously, wisps of ghostlight emanating from tiny symbols imprinted onto the surface of the rock. Ah, right, thanks, Necrozma. Your servitude has been unmissable. Your contributions are valued. Servitude. That's the closest to a things I'm gonna get from him. God Pebble in his paws reacted, binding Alan as it shattered into dust. The runes once present on the tiny rock were now imprinted onto Alan instead, covering the vulpix's white snow in bright golden runes. A rush of wind blew around Alan as his vision returned. The crossbow's would have disappeared, leaving the fox alone as the mist closed in around him. Stay off that, Jangmo. We will discuss your next assignment at a later date. The crossbow's disembodied voice rang out from this void, as his presence melted away completely. The great fog rolled around the land as the throne he sat on folded upon itself, plunging Alan into a familiar yet bleak nothingness below. Alan shut his eyes, the raging storm above quieting down as his senses dulled. He drifted off as his illusory body dissolved into the surrounding void, returning his mind to the peaceful quiet of the abyss once more. Arc 1 Introductions. Thank you, Turkey. So, it's been a while. Sorry about that. I really got no excuses this time aside from just not wanting to work on it when I could, and not being able to work on it when I wanted. Repeat this for 5 months, and here we are. Huge thanks to Zoe for beta reading as always, and be sure to check out their fic PMD Acid Rain as well. Thanks for sticking by so long. Probably going to be too busy to post another chapter before final exams, so I'll see you after. See you soon, Turkey.